Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm at a seabird colony on the Yorkshire coast, and it's called Bempton Cliffs. And wow, what a place this is. It's a mainland seabird colony, so you don't need to get a boat there, and it's full of thousands and thousands of seabirds. There's a few puffins, there's razorbills, there's guillemots, there's fulmars, there's kittiwakes, and the star of the show in my opinion are the gannets, and they are literally everywhere. And in this video we're going to look at how to get the most out of a period of time photographing seabirds at a seabird colony. I'm going to cover all sorts of subjects, from the technical side of photography to storytelling, so how to tell a story of a day or a few days photographing at a place like this. And honestly, I've been here a few days and I've got such a great set of shots in different weather conditions, different lighting conditions, there's different behaviour. It's absolutely fantastic. So I hope you stick with this video, because I'll give you as many tips as I can to get the most out of a day photographing seabirds at a colony like this. But there'll be enough information for general wildlife photography as well. So even if you're not planning to go to a seabird colony, there's still going to be lots of information for photographing birds in flight and bird photography. I'd probably say one of the most important things when it comes to photographing a seabird colony is simplicity, because there's so many seabirds. It's really hard to take a messy shot, just too much going on. And so what I tend to do is I look for the edges. Now you're not going to be able to see the edges of the cliffs at the moment because it's just too misty, but I look for the edge of a cliff. And then if you've got a single bird or a couple of birds sort of standing on the edge of the cliff ready to take off, that's a really good place to start. So we're looking to sort of simplify and separate our subjects. So if you've got too many seabirds, they just all merge in together and become a bit of a mess. So that's what we want to avoid. We want to avoid sort of messy, overcomplicated photographs. So in this case, I'm looking for areas where I've got a cliff face or cliff edge and the birds are perching on the edge of the cliff edge, and you'll see a couple of pictures come up in the next segment before I get to the next segment of this video showing that. And once we've got some isolated subjects, then we can sort of start to think about what sort of backgrounds we want. And ideally, either you want a plain background with maybe just a sea in the background, or if we're doing moving on to flight shots, then it's not just about getting the birds against the blue sky. It's about finding areas where you can see the cliffs in the background, so you've got a bit of context. So it's all about, I would say, to get successful photographs from a seabird colony, it's about simplicity, about separating your subjects, about using lots of different backgrounds, so not just the sky but have the cliffs in the background so you've got context, and it's all about framing as well. We're not just looking to get frame filling pictures. Maybe we want to leave a little bit of space around the animal, so you've got the environment. So take some environmental shots. So what I would say is it's about getting as much variety as you possibly can, but also looking for good separation between the subjects and making those pictures simple and not too busy, not having too much going on. I've been at Bempton Cliffs all week and I've had a variety of weather situations. Now, as I say, at the moment it's really misty, and you could turn up and think, oh God, you know, it's really misty, I'm not going to take too many great pictures, maybe I won't even bother. But the fact of the matter is, the mist can be really atmospheric, and you can go for maybe overexpose the picture just slightly so you get these high key images, especially the gannets and the fulmars and the kittiwakes, because they're light birds anyway. So don't rule out shooting under all different weather conditions. So misty is okay. Soft lighting, so on a cloudy day, is also very good, especially for the white birds, because that low contrast light brings out all the fine detail of the feathers. If you have got bright conditions, that's quite nice for the darker birds, the guillemots and the razorbills, because they've got really dark faces, and that directional sunlight can actually add a little sparkle to the eye. So different weather conditions, different subjects, there's always something to photograph regardless of the weather. And then when it comes to wind, wind is good for seabird colonies, because what happens is, as the wind comes in, particularly if it's coming in from the sea, it hits the cliffs and then goes right up and creates an updraft, and that means the birds hit that updraft and they hover above the cliff face. And if you look at these pictures coming up, you'll see they just hang in the sky. So it makes it easier to focus for a start, and the shapes that these birds create while they're just hanging there is absolutely fantastic. So wind is good. Wind and mist is fine, because it's been windy all day today and misty for a good part of it, because the wind is just blowing the sea mist on. Often when it's a windy you don't get mist, but in this case it just creates a mist when you've got warm air and cold air coming together. Sunny conditions are okay, blue skies are fine, you know, for those sort of, certainly those darker birds, and wind is really good. I've even shot in really raining conditions under a big golfing umbrella, and the feathers of the birds get wet and you get different types of shots. So there really isn't a bad weather condition here. Just get out and practice, and photograph as many different subjects in as many different lighting conditions and weather conditions as you can. And I think you'll come back with a huge variety of images, to be honest. If you look at the gannets coming in here, this is the perfect wind direction for taking pictures of gannets at a seabird colony. As I say, the wind is hitting the cliffs, it's rising up, and it makes it really hard for the gannets to land, so they hover. And they're waiting to land, because if you look at the cliff face, it's been really clipped quite short, the grass, and the gannets are there collecting nesting material. So early May is a great time to watch this behaviour. When it comes to camera settings, that's fairly similar to most bird in flight photographs. So the shutter speed is key, isn't it? And when it comes to gannets, they're not too fast in terms of flying. So 1,000th of a second, 1,000th of a second would be easily enough. If you're doing faster moving birds, such as the kittiwakes, maybe a 2,000th of a second. And the puffins, the guillemots and the razorbills, probably 2,000th of a second as well. Although when it's really windy and the birds are just hanging, you can get away with maybe 1,000th, even 500th of a second, because they're not moving much. So again, the wind conditions play a big part. Generally, I'm going to stop the lens down by 2/3 of a stop to make the lens a bit sharper if I've got enough light. If it's really dull, I'll open the lens up wide open. And I normally shoot with auto ISO. So then if I go from a bright area to a dark area, the ISO is just going to go up and down to maintain that shutter speed. I'm going to be on animal eye detect, or in my case bird eye detect, and it's going to be continuous focusing. So the camera settings are fairly straightforward. But what I would say is, because we've got lots of groups of birds, it might be worth thinking about your aperture, and if you've got 2 or 3 birds in the frame and you want to get them all sharp, pushing up the F number. So go for maybe F10, F11, even F16 if there's enough light, because that gives you extra depth of field. Now that's great if there's a group of birds. If you're doing a single bird, then I would drop back down again and have the aperture either wide open or 2/3 of a stop stepped down. That way the background gets nice and blurred, and you've got enough depth of field for that bird. Having said that, gannets are big, and if you've got enough light, shooting at maybe f8 will just bring in a bit more sharpness on the wingtips. So you have to vary your aperture here to give you different effects. Groups of birds, maybe f11, f16 if you've got enough light, so that depth of field is increased. If you've got a single bird, maybe wide open or stop the lens down by 2/3 of a stop. And if you've got enough light also, maybe you go to f8 on the big birds like the gannets, just to give you a bit more depth of field. So there's lots to think about, but the thing about a seabird colony, because there's so much action going on all the time, it just means you've got lots of time to practice and experiment. So you can try all of these things out, and it's a great place to learn photography as well, to be honest. There is an awful lot going on in a seabird colony. There's birds flying around everywhere, there's mesmerising action, and what I would suggest is you pick one little area and concentrate on that to start with, and don't get too distracted by everything else that's happening. And when you pick an area, sometimes, let's say it's a group of gannets, it might look as if there's not a lot going on. But as long as you wait, you'll see all sorts of behaviour. There'll be beaking where they touch beaks, and you'll see a picture of the gannets beaking in a minute. Sometimes there'll be a real argument, a fight. They really tear into each other, and there's a couple of pictures coming up of a gannets having a real argument. And then I've got a lovely shot earlier in the week of a herring gull protecting its nest, and you'd think it's the other way around, and pushing off or really having a go at a gannet. And I've got a shot of the herring gull here and the gannet having a screech back at it, and you would think it'd be the other way around, the herring gull looking for the gannet's nest, but in this case it was the herring gull protecting its own little area and the gannet had encroached. So all of these pieces of behaviour are really worth looking out for, and it adds to the story you're creating when it comes to shooting or photographing a seabird colony. I'm here in May, sort of end of May, for the seabirds, and it's a great time for documenting all the seabirds like kittiwakes and the gannets collecting nesting material, and they've got all the nesting material in their beaks and they're pulling it up from the side of the cliff. So again, looking for these bits of behaviour, the intimate sort of beaking where they're touching beaks and reaffirming their pair bond, looking for this sort of building or getting nesting material, and the arguments and the fights. It all builds a story of a day at a seabird colony. So what you basically want is you want your tight sort of headshots, your portraits. Then you want your sort of behavioural shots, you want in-flight shots, if the wind's in the right position, hanging up in the air. So there's so much you can do for a seabird colony, but it's having, I think the important thing is having a plan and knowing this, I'm going to go for this type of shot, this type of shot, this type of shot, this type of shot, and try and tell a story of the day maybe. Spend a whole day here and tell that story, or maybe a few days. And if you've got the chance to spend a few days, then you get all the different weather and lighting conditions come in as well. So it's the variety and the storytelling, I think, that's important when you come to a seabird colony. I've had such a fantastic time here. I've been up at Benton Cliffs for a few days and it's been absolutely brilliant. Now, I've not been vlogging during taking the photographs. I've done it all at the end, but I'm going to show you loads of pictures throughout this video. You will have already seen a load and I'll put some on the end of the video. But honestly, if you get a chance to come to a seabird colony, I really, really suggest you do, because it's a fantastic experience. So I really hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope it gives you some tips for your own visit to a seabird colony. And you know, as always, if you have liked the video, if you give it a like, a thumbs up, that would be great. If you haven't already subscribed to my channel, if you can consider subscribing, that would be brilliant. The more the merrier. And if you've got any great experiences from a visit to a seabird colony yourselves, just drop them in the comments below. It's always great to hear what people are up to. So thanks for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I'll speak to you on my next one. So bye for now, guys.